Hello everyone, I'm Sina, and as you might have already guessed, in this video I'm going to talk about dip pens and how you can significantly upgrade your experience of using them by a slight enhancement in ink and ink bottle. Well, let's have a quick review of what you're about to watch in this video. First, I will elaborate about the disaster that motivated me to making this video and how I managed to finally find my favorite ink bottle that wouldn't burp on my work. Then I will explain about how you can write or draw with your dip pen without actually dipping it into the ink, and that I believe it's better to drop the ink instead of dipping it. And in the third chapter you're gonna watch how all these incidents gave me this idea that maybe with a little enhancement in the ink you're gonna have a way better experience. And that an ink that was considered bad before wasn't bad at all. Then in the fourth chapter, it's time to handle the issue of handle without actually wrapping it into a piece of cloth. And you're gonna see how that little lever can be a game changer. And as always, the best part is kept for the last, which is the nib. And do you actually need a potato to break it in?
I am the master of disaster.
If you search online, you're gonna find hundreds, if not thousands, of videos about dip pens that are trying to address different issues of them. Although most of them bring up, in my opinion, crazy ideas about solving those issues, like offering wrapping a piece of cloth around the handle to solve the issue of sweaty hands instead of using a cork handle, or proposing the idea that you need to put the nib in a potato to break it in. None of them have ever tried to address the main issue of dip pens, which, in my opinion, is the constant need of dipping them into the ink, which actually causes two major problems. First, deviates you from what you're doing, and the second and most important is that there is always the risk of tipping the ink bottle over and burping the ink on your work. And this is what that actually happened to me a while ago when I was practicing cross-hatching. And I started to think what if that really happened over my artwork. And it was then that I felt the duty to step in and solve the problem. And to complicate the matter even further, is worth mentioning that putting too much ink on the nib not even solves the problem, but also makes it even more complicated. Due to the surface tension between the ink on the nib and the wet ink on the paper, there's always the risk of all the ink being sucked out, creating such a mess. In order to solve the problem, I started looking for a better ink bottle. Something that, if overturned, wouldn't splash ink all over my artwork. And while looking inside my ink drawers, I ran into these technical pen ink bottles. And it was then that an idea came into my mind. Due to the tapered shape of the bottle, I could easily use them to put ink on the nib, and I also remembered that the Pelikan Graphos ink bottle had the same characteristic. And if you don't know what is Graphos, I put the link up below, go check it. And it's time to see which one of these ink bottles can withstand my overturned test. And as you see, the results for Faber-Castell and Rotring are both disappointing. The only left candidate is the Pelikan Graphos ink bottle, which is the winner as well. And if you don't know how you can fill it and use it, go check that Graphos video in my channel. Two top features of it are, first, you don't need to squeeze it to bring the ink out. Second, as the cap is push fit, you can use it one-handed. If you remember, I told you that I believe that the main issue of dip pens is their need to be dipped constantly. And now I'm trying to find an alternate way of putting ink on the nib. And for the sake of comparison, I have arranged a test, just as you see here. First, let's try the traditional way, that is dipping pen into the ink, and with that you're gonna achieve less than 2 inches. And now it's time to test my proposal, and that is dropping the ink on the nib. And to achieve a better idea of what is happening here, no editing and cutting has been done, and only the speed of video has been doubled. Honestly, I didn't expect this, but to my complete surprise, the result with 3.5 inch was significantly better. So with this simple maneuver, I could achieve higher ink capacity and more security. When I was looking for a better ink bottle, I noticed a surprising fact. The thicker the ink was, the longer it could stay on the nib. So I took 3 bad inks and arranged another test. The first is completely two-faced, second has feathering problem, and third doesn't dry on the paper. And for better comparison, notice that a good ink should seem something like this on the paper. Now I take all bad inks and mix them inside this eyedropper ink bottle. Don't forget not to fill it up to the neck, leaving some space for other ingredients. I have an old ink bottle which the ink inside has completely coagulated. Let's add some of it to the mixture. I also add some of these plastic balls which is optional, and don't bother if you don't have them. Shake it well, and now is the moment of truth. I test some of it beside the sample from the Graphos ink bottle. I believe it's both darker, and even on this middle quality paper doesn't feather at all. And for better comparison, I'm going to use this Esterbrook oval point to use both of them beside each other. The ink inside Graphos ink bottle has normal thinness, but the mixture I just made is thicker, and to be applied an eyedropper is needed. And as you see, it performs well better than the normal ink. But to make sure, I took the previous pen and tested it beside the other two on the same test sheet. I must admit, if your nib is stiff and non-flexible, it might start skipping at the beginning. And maybe this thick improvised ink isn't the best choice for tiny nibs like Cretacolor or non-flexible ones like this one I'm using here. But if you don't get disappointed and keep trying, the result is definitely rewarding. As you see, the lines are darker and crispier than normal ink. And while you're watching me hatching, maybe it's not a bad idea to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And simultaneously, notice the 5-fold increase in the hatching length achieved by this simple hack into the ink. And now it's time to test this improvised ink on other well-known nibs of the market. And here is the test I have already done off the camera. The height of the hatching column is about 10 cm, and I have tested both thin normal ink and thick improvised ink on each nib. Starting from Zebra Genie from Japan, with 4.5 for thin and 20 cm for thick ink. Mayers & Son Post Office Pen from England, with 5.5 for thin and 13.5 for thick ink. Hunt School Model 56 from United States, with 6 for thin and 9.5 cm for thick ink. Esterbrook Oval Point number 788 from United States, 8.5 for thin and 18.5 cm for thick ink. Brause 361 from Germany with 5.5 for thin and 7.5 for thick ink. And the Academy Award goes to Esterbrook Easy Rider 130 from United States with 10 cm for thin ink and the amazing 41 cm achieved for thick ink, which is quite fascinating. And now it's time to turn to the handle. But before that, it's worth mentioning that I'm going to make a video about this fascinating pen, which is the true ancestor of any other technical pen. The handles you're watching here are those which can be found on the market easily nowadays, and I have excluded vintage rare models like these from the test. Handles can be quite variant, all from short to long, made from metal, resin, plastic, and mostly wood like this one, or compact ABS plastic like this other. But the feature they have all in common is that they can easily get inky, an incident I dislike a lot. And that's another reason I'm trying to avoid dipping the pen into the ink. Because each time you dip the pen, there's the risk of ink coming up and making the handle filthy. And if you have sweaty hands, instead of inventing improvised methods, like wrapping a piece of cloth around the handle, try using these cork top handles, which will definitely do the job better. And if you happen to unintentionally making the handle inky, don't apply water on it. Just simply take it in a piece of cloth like this and spray alcohol over it. And wipe the alcohol and ink several times to completely clean it. And it's worth mentioning that above them all, these Cretacolor handles have a peculiar feature, which is in the way the nib is going to be posted on the barrel. While others have a piece of spring metal in the barrel to hold the nib in place, the Cretacolor handles have a little lever that determines the amount of nib to be exposed, and you can adjust it wherever you feel happy, and it will hold the nib in place stiffly. And that's why I really recommend it over the others. As said before, I kept the best for the last. And that's nothing but the nib itself. I have plenty of them like these from Czechoslovakia, or Speedball or Hunt 104. And there are actually endless models available. They can be quite tiny or middle-sized like this Zebra G-nib. But they have one thing in common, and that is when exposed to water, they can rust away quite soon. And for example, if you take this Esterbrook as an example, you can vividly witness these stains of rust starting to grow on it, which is solely because of the humidity of the air. And now to show you what is the best way of cleaning them, I test another drop of my improvised thick ink over it. And as the most common use of dip pens is for calligraphy, let's start with writing down some word samples. And then we will try some hatching and cross-hatching. And as you see, the ink is performing flawlessly, both in calligraphy and in hatching. I'm not sure if you can witness how black it is on the camera, but believe me, it's by far the most black ink I've ever used. And just notice how much ink is still left on it, that I'm not going to use any further, but to show you how to clean it. First wipe the ink completely, then apply sanitation alcohol over it. Then without applying any pressure on the handle, press the nib itself down to open up those scissors and wipe out the ink inside the ink channel as well. And by doing this, you have thoroughly cleaned your pen and will never experience skipping while writing or hatching. And this brings us to the last point to be mentioned, and that is how to break in a nib. There's a protective layer of oil on the nib which needs to be removed before starting to use it. And in order to do that, you don't need to do crazy things like applying acetone or burning or dipping it into potato. You just need to put it on a piece of cloth and spray alcohol on both sides and rub it gently. And you're gonna see how easily that layer of oil comes off. And if it's so tiny that you can't hold it into your hands easily, just push it on the handle, but remember not to apply any pressure on the handle while cleaning.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.
And as for the other future videos, there will be a complete video about the evolution of technical pens. And also, there will be a comprehensive comparison between different technical pens, considering their weak and strong points, build quality, fineness of the nib, and other features. And also, a complete review of fine liners, or disposable technical pens, addressing different aspects of each one. And also a comprehensive overlook of engineering compasses, comparing their precision and build quality. And there will be a same video about lead holders, like this fantastic one from Bohemia, or like this vintage Faber-Castell. from 2mm to 5mm LED holders, considering different LEDs available for them, and the different use of those LEDs. And next will be a video about rare engineering tools like this hatching ruler. And even if you take a look at previous videos, you're going to find some fantastic ones, like this one about Pelikan or Pelikan Graphos, which you will definitely find quite useful. And there is also a video about this rare and beautiful lettering set from Leroy that definitely you won't find anything like it anywhere else, and I'm sure you will enjoy watching it. Well, many thanks for staying with me up until this moment. I'd be really grateful if you subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. And leave me your comments, because they are the only way of interaction between you and me. Well, that's it all for now. Good luck.